Most respected Thai, dear Sangha here in Plum Village and throughout the world, today is the 31st of December in the year 2020, the last day of 2020, and we are in the upper hamlet in the still water meditation hall. We will begin by listening to 3 sounds of the bell. Enjoy your breathing. Enjoy being here in the present moment. Breathing in, I am alive. Breathing out, I smile to life within me and around me. So, dear friends, I don't know how sensitive the microphone is, and if you can hear the rain or not. Today, the subject is hope in action. To me, hope is here and now. Hope is not the future. We can practice the virtue of hope simply by dwelling in the present moment. This year, in the springtime, I was living next door to a field which would, in the summertime, be a field of sunflowers. But in the springtime, in April, you wouldn't know that there were any sunflowers there. But the farmer who took care of the field knew the sunflowers were there because he had planted the seed. And in each sunflower seed, there is all the potential, all the hope for the summer flowers which later bloomed so beautifully. Sunflowers are a wonderful crop because they don't need pesticides and herbicides to grow. And I don't think they need fertilizer either. So we're very happy watching them grow. And then one morning they all turned to the east and bloomed beautifully in the morning sunshine, bringing us much happiness. So when I think about hope, I think about all the seeds. We all have seeds to take care of. We all have a garden, a field of seeds to take care of. And that is our hope. Because a seed is a potential. And depending on what direction you go in, that seed will go in that direction with you. So this morning, tomorrow morning, sorry. Tomorrow morning, many of you will receive the 5 mindfulness trainings, planting some wonderful seeds. Today, when we were coming from the lower hamlet to the upper hamlet, we passed a field. And that field was a vineyard. It used not to be a vineyard, but it's become one recently. And my first reaction is a little bit of sadness. But I remember how Thai said in a Dharma talk in the past, when there is a transmission of the 5 mindfulness trainings, and Thai looks at all our friends who are receiving the trainings, it takes away all the sadness of the vineyards, because we know that those people who receive the trainings are not going to be spending money buying wine. So when I thought about that, I felt very happy, and I felt very grateful to those of you who have that aspiration tomorrow morning to receive the 5 mindfulness trainings. Yesterday, in the morning, we had a guided meditation about the 4 nutriments. That is how we nourish the seeds in our consciousness. So we can look together now at the 4 nutriments. The first nutriment, we call it edible food. In our meditation yesterday, we looked at what we eat every day. We had a chance to contemplate that. What I eat for my breakfast, or what I eat for my lunch. And then we had a chance to contemplate what I eat. Does it nourish my health? Does it nourish my happiness? And when we look like that, we may feel yes, or we may feel, oh, maybe there's something I need to change a little bit in the way I consume edible food. And then the second part of the meditation was to look and see the impact of how we eat on Mother Earth. Recently, nutritionists have told us that if we eat a diet that is healthy for ourselves, that diet will also be healthy for Mother Earth. So we know very clearly, we see very clearly that we are children of Mother Earth, and what is good for us is good for the earth. This means we have a plant-based diet. That is what is good for our health and is good for Mother Earth, because a plant-based diet doesn't produce a large amount of methane gas. And when I look at the food I eat and the impact that it has on Mother Earth, I think about the rice. And the rice comes from about 4 hours away, 4 hours drive away from Plum Village. So it takes a little bit of transport to come here. And I know that that kind of transport is not the best thing for Mother Earth, but it's better than eating meat, better for Mother Earth. And I also know that when they cultivate the rice, they have to use oil, they have to use petrol, and so on. And so it's not the best, 100% best thing for Mother Earth. But none of us can be 100%. We just do our best. And we learn every day how we can do a little bit more for Mother Earth. So before, I didn't think too much about the packaging that the food I eat comes in. But when I heard about plastic and how the plastic containers of our food may take 500 years to go back to the earth, and when they do go back to the earth, they also produce poisons in the water, then I decided I have to look deeply into ways I can consume without plastic packaging. So there are many things that we can learn, and this is also our hope for Mother Earth. The next kind of food that we wanted to look at is the food of sense contact. It means we contemplate, what do I see every day? What do I hear every day? And how do these things impact me when I see that? Does it water seeds of freshness, happiness in me? What can I look at in my daily life? What can I listen to in my daily life to water the seeds of freshness and happiness? And when I contemplate like that, I see there are so many things. The blue sky, the song of the birds, they're always available. There's always something that I can look at or listen to nourish me. And maybe I just look or listen cursorily, but I can also look and listen deeply and for a longer time, so that when I see something or I hear something that nourishes me, that nourishes my consciousness, then I give my attention to it and I stay with it as long as I can. It's now winter time, and every day we light the wood stove. And we know that in the wood is stored up the sunshine from the summer. We can also store up the summer sunshine for winter days. We can, when we practice like I just described, looking at something, listening to something that nourishes us, we can store that up in our consciousness, and it can bring us happiness in difficult moments, in difficult times. So how we are now is very important for our future. How we are now taking care of the seeds in our consciousness. That is so important for the future. So we have that opportunity to make our future a good one. The way the present is the way the future can be. And scientists talk about probability and predictability. And can we predict what a particle is going to do? In fact, we cannot 100% predict anything from the scientific point of view, or probably from any point of view. But we can know a lot about the direction a particle will take by knowing the history of that particle. But there is always a certain amount of uncertainty because of fluxes, of fluctuations in the environment. And a fluctuation in the environment can change something. But the history is the most important thing. So when we are practicing in the present moment, we are being in the past for the future. In the future, the present moment will be the past. And that is why we can use our sense contact, we can use our eyes and our ears in order to be able to store up the wood that we need for the winter fire. And when we find ourselves looking at something or listening to something that is nourishing the negative seeds in us, at that point we can decide to look somewhere else, to listen to something else. We can withdraw politely from a conversation. We can say that we have another appointment at this moment, and our appointment at this moment will be for us with something that is more nourishing for us. And then the third kind of food is called the food of volition. It's very important. Sometimes we think that the most important thing for keeping us alive is the edible food that we take. But actually, the most important thing is not only the edible food. The volition is very important. Our volition can keep us alive. I think many doctors have seen this in their patients. Someone who really wants to live, it's very difficult for them to die. So our volition is our deepest aspiration. And every day we have a chance to ask myself, what is my deepest aspiration? What do I really want in this short lifetime? And every day the answer is a little bit different. Sometimes it's, I want happiness for myself and everyone else. And sometimes it's, I want true love. So maybe we can look at the teaching of true love. About a week ago, Sister Tự Nghiêm gave the Dharma talk on Christmas Eve. And she sang Ubi Caritas et Amor. And she said that this week I will sing it in Sanskrit. So I have to keep not exactly my promise, but I have to keep Sister Dungim's promise. It's a little bit about true love in Buddhism. Actually, the teachings on love that the Buddha gave are pre-Buddhist teachings. We have to remember that the Buddha was not a Buddhist. And the Buddha wanted to help many people. And there was other spiritual paths at the time of the Buddha. And one of them is called Brahmanism. And the Buddha taught many Brahmins. And he used the teaching which was originally a Brahmanist teaching in order to make it a Buddhist teaching, which we now have. So one day there were two Brahman students, and they were having an argument about the best way to be in union with Brahma. So Brahma is like the creator God, and when you die, you really, if you practice Brahmanism, you really want to become one with Brahma. Go to where Brahma is. So these two students were arguing among themselves about what is the best way to have union with Brahma. And they couldn't come to an agreement. So they said, oh, well, the Buddha, Shakyamuni, Gautama Buddha, is staying near here. We'll go and ask him what is the best way. And then we agree with each other that whatever he says, we will accept that, and we will practice that. Because Gautama Buddha is an awakened one, an enlightened one. So they went to the Buddha and they said, we're having this argument about how we can be in union with Brahma. And the Buddha said, and one of them said, my teacher told me this, and the other said, my teacher told me that. And the Buddha said, have your teachers ever seen Brahma? And they said no. Then the Buddha said, well, how can they, if they haven't seen Brahma, how can they know how you can be in union with him? It's like saying, oh, you really love someone, you really love that person, and then you ask, well, where does she live? What color hair does she have? And you say, I don't know. So sometimes your teacher tells you these things about Brahma, but really they don't know anything about Brahma. So the Buddha said that the Buddha had experience of Brahma, and that Brahma is four things. Maitri, which means loving kindness, Karuna, which means compassion, Mudita, which means joy, Upeksha, which means inclusiveness, inclusivity. So this is why we have this song. Huh? And then the Buddha described these four things a little bit. It's on the board, but maybe the board is in the wrong place. Huh? Yatra Maitriya Karuna Cha, Yatra Maitriya Tatra Brahma. So that means where there is Maitri, loving kindness, where there is compassion, Karuna, where there is Maitri, there is Brahma. That is where you find Brahma. You like to sing it along? Yatra Maitri Karuna Cha, Yatra Maitri Tatra Brahma. Yeah, Brahma. And then we could make it, Buddhicize it, and we can, instead of saying Brahma, we could say Maitreya, Maitreya, or it should have an H on the end. I'm sorry, we forgot to put the H. Maitreya. So Maitreya is the New Year Buddha. When we celebrate the New Year, we remember Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha is the Buddha of the future. But Maitreya Buddha is already there. He's already there in the Tushita heaven. He's already there in our hearts. It's very hopeful. We've had so many past Buddhas, millions of years ago, and millions of years to come there will be Buddhas. Maybe there'll be times when Buddha's almost not there. We sometimes talk about the ending of the Dharma, the era when the Dharma isn't there. But we know after that the Dharma will come back and there will be the Buddha Maitreya. So we can be in touch with the Buddha Maitreya in the present moment. And we used to touch the earth to Maitreya and say, seed of awakening and loving kindness in children, and then we said sprouts and all beings. And people didn't like sprouts, so we left it out. And now we just say children and all beings. But I quite like sprouts. Not Brussels sprouts. Yeah. Because it is the kind of intelligence that is in a seed, coming into the sprout. And we make sometimes a distinction between living beings and non-living beings. And so people thought sprouts are non-living beings, so they don't want to include them anymore. But in fact, there is Buddha nature in everything. Is part of our consciousness, and so there must be Buddha nature. And some people, when they give rise to the bodhicitta, they want not to enter nirvana until every blade of grass become enlightened. But when you look with the enlightened eyes, the blades of grass are also enlightened. So that is Maitreya, Maitreya Buddha. So Maitreya is very interesting. Maybe we call he, maybe we call she. But actually, Thai say that Maitreya Buddha will be a Sangha. So now we have to sing another song about Sangha. Or we can sing Yatra Maitri and we can sing it with Maitreya instead of Brahma. Okay. First we sing that, and then we'll sing a song about Sangha. Yatra Maitri Karuna Cha Yatra Maitri Tatra Maitreyach Yatra Maitri Karuna Cha Yatra Maitri Tatra Maitreya. Okay, now we're singing the Sangha. This is a song in the here and now. I was very moved when I heard this song. It is composed by our teacher Thai, or the words are. Thai heard the song in gratitude. Okay, in gratitude, what happened next? You water seeds. In gratitude, you have watered seeds of love in me. And Thai said, "Oh, this is such nice music, such good music. We should have some really good words to go with it." And Thai made the words in Vietnamese. In 2013, when Thai was in the monastery in Thailand. So I like that song. It's about Sangha so much that I translated it. And now we can sing. You can sing along if you know In Gratitude, huh? In the here and now we are singing together to light up the fact we have each other. In the here and now we are walking together on our dearest Mother Earth. That we have each other brings us joy every day. And now we are singing together to light up the fact we have each other. In the here and now we are walking together on our dearest planet Earth. When there is suffering, we'll be there right away. In the here and now we are singing together to light up the fact we have each other. In the here and now we are walking together on our dearest Mother Earth. Together we shall build the future. Holding hands we help the world. Okay. Yeah. Dear Sangha, I think why I like this so much is because there is so much hope in it. In the past centuries, we have really been individualistic. We have commended individualism. Everybody strives on their own to outdo others. And now, in the 21st century, we have an opportunity in order to do differently. And that doing differently, to me, is summed up in this song. it also sums up that we have the joy of doing things together. And when we do things together, we produce an energy called a collective energy. Like when you all practice the 5 mindfulness trainings together, you produce a collective energy that can help the world, help Mother Earth. And when we sing together, we forget about our individual self. You may have seen sometimes how before Thai's Dharma talk, the brothers and sisters will come up and sing. And when we come up like that, we no longer have an idea of being better than or worse than or the same as someone else. And we feel one with those who are listening to us singing. So the one who sings and the one who is sung to are not two separate entities. And we enjoy that togetherness so much, we can just let go of all our idea of a separate self. And walking together is the same. I know you may be in confinement. You may not have been able to walk physically with us during the walking meditation, but still we were walking together. And the energy we were producing was a non-local energy. Somehow we were coming together across time, maybe across space, time and space, actually also time, because some of you were practicing late at night and some early in the morning. So we were together in a very special non-local sense. And we're lucky that science gives us that opportunity. Technology gives us that opportunity. And science also tells us that there is the non-local. Things far apart from each other, they influence each other. So we have been walking together, and walking together we become part of a river, part of a stream, and we're no longer a separate self. And of course, everyone in the stream is a drop of water. And if you're a drop of water and you are feeling uncomfortable or feeling sad or feeling fear, you just say to the other drops of water, I entrust myself to you. And the other drops of water will hold you. And they will hold your fear and your sadness. And if you're a drop of water feeling joy, feeling peace, then you will share your peace and your joy with the other drops of water. Things come together in a wonderful way. Just like a laser, all the atoms, all the photons, they come together and they produce a very strong light. And in the same way, when we come together to practice together, we produce a very strong light. And just like when you heat up water, at a certain point when the difference between the temperature under the water and the temperature of the surface of the water are different enough, all the molecules, all the cells in the water will suddenly become hexagonal cells that can convey the heat from the bottom and from the coolness from the top. They can do things together like that. And that is how we are in the Sangha. And in the world where there is suffering, we come together to take care of it. We don't leave you on your own to take care of it. We are there for you. So, Maitreya Buddha is Mr. Love, or Mrs. Love, or Miss Love, or what would you say? Messrs. Love. We don't have a word for the plural, huh? If we're a Sangha. Or also friendliness. Maitri also means friendliness. This is the kind of love where you bring happiness to someone. May I bring happiness to someone today. And contemplate how will I bring a happiness to this person today. And the Karuna, the brother is wanting to help me by inviting the bell. So I will invite the brother to invite the bell. So, dear Sangha, I just remembered what we're talking about. We're talking about the third kind of food, which is volition, my deepest aspiration. And we are saying that if we look, we may see that our deepest aspiration is true love. So this is the second aspect of true love, karuna. To relieve the suffering of someone. We know that our suffering and the suffering of others is not two separate things. And so when we relieve someone else's suffering, maybe we feel good before even they feel good. You know, if you are a lion, no, you're not a lion, but imagine a lion. It has a thorn in its paw. And even though it's the biggest and strongest king of the beasts, a little thorn in its paw can be very painful for the lion and stop it from being able to walk. So a little mouse come along and take the thorn between its teeth and pull it out. And the very small thing, which doesn't have much power, can remove the suffering of the big animal. So sometimes we feel that we can't really help to remove somebody suffering who's very powerful like that. But maybe we can. Like your boss is very powerful, but he also has a lot of suffering. And if you are working for him, very insignificant, but you don't care about promotion, so you're not doing things in order to get promoted. You just want to help. You just want to help remove some of your boss's suffering. So you try and understand more. Where does his suffering come from? And you find the skillful way, like the teeth of the mouse, to pull the suffering out. So now we understand that relieving suffering has a lot to do with understanding. We try and relieve somebody's suffering because we feel pity for them. It will not necessarily work. But if we understand why they are suffering, how they are suffering, then we can use that understanding in order to be able to say something or not say something, do something or not do something, which will remove that person's suffering. And the third part of love is joy. And mudita. If you are jealous of someone, you cannot love that person. So mudita, joy, is the antidote for jealousy. Because you know that the other person's success is also your success. You know that if you're promoted, you may feel joy, but there'll be someone else who didn't get the promotion, so they will suffer. And therefore you know that being promoted is not real happiness. You feel happy for someone else's success, for someone else's happiness. And sometimes when I don't feel very happy, the best thing I can do is look at someone who is happy, and I say to that person, please may I borrow your happiness. And I know that they have more than enough happiness so that I can borrow it. So mudita is recognizing that joy is not an individual matter. But we know we need to give rise to joy. Because maybe if you don't have enough joy, then you may have a very good reason for feeling jealous. Because your partner, your husband, your wife, may not find enough joy in the relationship and go and look somewhere else. So that will maybe give rise to jealousy. But don't wait until that happens. We know that every day we can offer some kind of joy to our loved one, some kind of freshness. And that is also a contemplation. We can do it as we eat the third mouthful of our food. First mouthful is for loving kindness, second is for compassion, third is for joy. How can I make you happy today? Maybe the most beautiful, the deepest part of love is the fourth, upeksha. Upeksha literally means to look down on. If you stand on the top of a mountain and you look down, you can see all around the mountain, all sides of the mountain. So that is inclusiveness. In our life, there are people who are easy to love. There are people who are not so easy. There are people who are neutral, neither easy nor difficult. And there are people it is difficult for us to love. And that is why we need the practice, in order to be able to include in our heart those we would rather sometimes close the door. This practice of inclusiveness is a training, and it takes time. But if we are training in something, we know that we need to make little bit progress every day. And depending on each person, that progress will be very little or a little bit bigger, or the size of the progress will differ according to the person and the circumstances. But it's very deep to contemplate on those who are difficult to love, and to open one's heart in order to be able to understand them, understand yourself more, understand the other more. Sometimes somebody does something that makes you feel very unhappy, and you say, I have to do beginning anew with that person. This morning you heard about how to do beginning anew. And so when you're calm enough, you will come together with that person to do beginning anew. And first of all, you will water their flowers and tell them all you appreciate about them. And as you do that, you already begin to feel less unhappy with them. You see there are so many things you'd forgotten about that in fact they have. And then the second thing you do is you have to say, I'm sorry. You have to express real regret about your part in the problem. And so I had to look deeply. What did I do? What did I say that made that person, the other person, react and say something unkind to me? And then I saw, or I tried to boss everybody around, tell them what they should be doing, they shouldn't be doing. And the other person was upset because of that. And so they said something unkind to me. And then I thought, oh, that person is really unkind, they've really hurt me. So I said to that person, I'm so sorry. I recognize my habit energy of wanting to boss everybody around and wanting them to do things like I like. And then I thought, I don't need to talk about my hurt anymore. I don't feel hurt anymore. It's just enough to say those two things. And then I was very surprised. And the other person, we were doing a kind of beginning anew in the Sangha, so there were quite a few of us present. And so the other person took the flower. You know, when you do beginning anew, you have a vase of flowers, and you can, when you speak, you can take the flowers to yourself. The other person took the flower and watered my flowers. Oh, I felt so happy. And then after watering my flowers, that person said, I'm so sorry I said that unkind thing. And so we both apologized. We both watered flowers. We didn't actually need to talk about our hurt. But that is just an example. There may be times I've done beginning anew when both of us really need to talk about our hurt. I just want to stress today the importance of saying I'm sorry. And saying I'm sorry to the other person directly as soon as you can. Because as long as you don't say I'm sorry, that person may be suffering. So now we have email, we have all kinds of ways of communication that we can say I'm sorry immediately. We can make a telephone call. And sometimes I have done this. I go away from a conversation and the other person has gone home, and I suddenly realize that was not kind. That person may be hurting. And I pick up the telephone and I call them immediately to let them know that I am sorry. So the beautiful thing about inclusiveness is that it's something that we can increase every day. It has no end. All our life we will be including more. We don't expect there will be one day when I don't need to be opening my heart to include more. Now I really need the sound of the bell. So, dear Sangha, we now come to the fourth kind of food. It's the food of consciousness. The master Vasubandhu said that consciousness, store consciousness, is like a torrent of water. If you think about a waterfall, moving very fast, millions of droplets of water cascading down a slope. You can see that each drop of water is a seed in consciousness, in store consciousness. So we know that store consciousness has all the seeds. And as we said before, we are the gardener, taking care of all those seeds. Our mind consciousness is the gardener. All the seeds of the past, of the future, the present, the seeds of the cosmos, they're all in store consciousness. They're jostling together, moving very fast. And when the Buddha talked about the fourth kind of food, the Buddha compared it to a thief. And he's brought before the king. And the king said, "This thief, the soldiers need to stab him 100 times. And so they took him out and they stabbed him 100 times. And then they came back to the king and they say, he hasn't died. So the king gave orders to stab him again 100 times. And again they said he hasn't died. And a third time. And then the Buddha asked, Do you think that person suffered? And the monk said, to be stabbed once is terrible suffering, but 300 times we cannot imagine that kind of suffering. But the seeds in our consciousness, they can give rise to suffering. And therefore, as a gardener, we take good care. So now we come to our third song. I've forgotten the tune now. I've got so many things. Hello, little grief. I know you are there. I hold you so gently. I hold you with care. Mindfulness is there all night and all day. So we don't need to run away. Sail our boat to the safe shore of the island of self and fear no more. Hello, little grief. Though you are there, you so gently I hold care. Mindfulness is there all night and all day, so we don't need to run away. We sail our boat to the safe shore of the island of self, and fear is no more. Yeah, thank you. So I think in our own time we feel grief. Many of us now, even though we call it a festive season, a holy season, a holiday season, we feel the grief because we lost someone we love, or someone we love is very sick. But even so, we feel grief for Mother Earth. We feel the grief for all we have done to harm life on Mother Earth, to harm Mother Earth herself. And sometimes we can't sleep at night because of our grief. And that is many of those water droplets in that torrent of consciousness. They have come together and they have brought about the grief. And now it's our turn to use our love in order to take care of that. So now we can sing the song and we can make some movement. Hello, little grief, I know you are there. Hold you gently, I hold you with care. Mindfulness is there all night and all day, so we don't need to run away. We sail our boat to the safe shore of the Isle of Self and fear no more. Good, yeah. So we have to use our love to take care of our grief. It may be our despair, it may be our fear, and we don't want to. We want to be very gentle. We want to be very careful because it's something very fragile, or at that time we're very fragile, we're very vulnerable. So we have to hold ourselves gently and with care. And mindfulness is there all night and all day. It means that you can't sleep at night. You feel the grief over Mother Earth and it keeps you awake at night. But mindfulness is always there, not just there when the light is on. When it's in the darkness, you can also practice mindful breathing and take care. So we don't need to push it away, we don't need to run away, go somewhere else. Sometimes the most difficult thing is not to run away. That is a habit that when we suffer, we want to run away. But we can't always run away. We can't keep running. There was a god once who came to ask the Buddha a question, and he said, "Is it possible to move so quickly that we can get away from our suffering?" And the Buddha said, "No." And the god said, "That's right. You're right, Lord Buddha, because in my last life I had a special miraculous power that I could move at the speed of light. But however fast I went, I could never run away from my suffering." So we have to stay there. And we're lucky because we can sail our boat to the island of self. We have that island of self. What is our self? Maybe we don't know. Maybe we say our self is made up of everything that is not our self. But we need to feel ourself. Sometimes we say, myself is my body. Sometimes we say, myself is my feelings. Myself is my perceptions. Myself is my mental formation. Myself is my consciousness. We can identify ourselves with any of those things, or none of them. So the first thing we do when we come back to the island of self, it must be that we come back to our body. We feel our body as it is now. And our body is something very wonderful, made up of energy and matter, constantly changing. And we come back to that constantly changing energy and matter, and we feel it. Or we may identify ourselves with a feeling, and that feeling is a painful feeling. But it's still ourself. And if we can really face it, we can really stay with it, then just like that monster we saw on the Christmas Eve, it gets smaller and smaller. You didn't see that monster on Christmas Eve? Maybe you weren't in Plum Village, but we had a monster in Plum Village. Everybody was very afraid. But then the king of mindfulness came and took care of the monster, invited the monster to come and sit down and have something to eat. And the monster got smaller and smaller. So that is, when we come back to ourselves, we may find a monster there. Our mental formation, our anger, our despair may be a monster. Still we come back to it. We are the mindful king. Can sit down with it. And there is no more fear. no more fear of monsters. So that is the gardener taking care of the consciousness, the fourth kind of food. And of course the consciousness, it contains all the wonders of life. Sometimes you have a dream and you see the colors, and the beauty is more beautiful than anything you've seen in your life. All that comes from the depths of our consciousness. Or you don't need to have a dream. You look at the night sky, you look at the moon. All that beauty is from the depth of consciousness. And when we come back to the island of self, we protect ourselves. We can protect ourselves, just like a planet may have a ring around it. We have a ring around ourselves, a ring of spiritual energy. Breathing in, I go back to myself. Breathing out, I take refuge in myself. This is very deep teaching given by the Buddha. The Buddha knew that he was not going to be with his disciples for much longer. He taught them, be island to yourself, be a refuge for yourself. Do not take refuge in any other thing or any other person. And the Thai gave us the teaching, being an island unto myself, as an island unto myself. Buddha is my mindfulness, shining near, shining far. Dharma is my breathing, guarding body and mind. I am free, being an island unto myself, as an island unto myself. Sangha is the five skandhas, working in harmony, taking refuge in myself, coming back to myself. I am free, I am free, I am free. So we say that mindfulness shines near, shines far. And in all the teachings that the Buddha gave on mindfulness, the Buddha always said that mindfulness is taking care of yourself. You come back to yourself. The Buddha gave the example of a couple who practiced an acrobat together. And there was the master and there was the disciple. And the disciple was a young girl. And the master held a bamboo cane, and the young girl had to climb up it and stand on top of it. And one day the Master said to his disciple, "My disciple, you really need to look out for me, and in that way we can do the act in safety." And then the disciple said to the Master, "No, sir, it's not like that. I have to look out for myself, and you have to look out for yourself. And in that way, we can do the act in safety." And the Buddha said, "Yes, the girl was right. We have to come back and take care of the mindfulness in ourself. We have to come back to the island of ourself." So that is about shining near. Shining near means taking care of ourselves. And shining far means that by coming back to ourselves, we are aware of what is happening around us. But always come back to ourselves first, and from that we have our awareness of what is happening around. And another example the Buddha gave for the 4 foundations of mindfulness was the example of the quail. Is a little bird. And the quail had always learnt from his parents that you mustn't leave the plowed field, because that is the safest place for you. But one day the quail wanted to go outside and find more, so he left the plowed field. And when he left, a hawk came and took him up in his beak. And when the quail was up in the air, in the beak of the hawk, he complained. He said, "How foolish I was. I didn't listen to my parents. I didn't keep to my ancestral place. And if I had, you would never have been able to catch me, Mr. Hawk." And the hawk said, "Okay, you keep to your ancestral place. I will catch you all the same." So the hawk let the quail go, and the quail went back to the plowed field. And the hawk swooped down. And you know, in a plowed field you have the furrow, go like this. And the quail was standing on the top of the furrow, and when the hawk swooped down, he slipped off the top of the furrow into the bottom of the furrow, and the hawk crashed into the mud. So some people say it's not a very compassionate story. But it's not really to do with that. The Buddha really just wants to show us that if you want to be safe, keep to your mindfulness. Keep in that field where you belong, the field of mindfulness. So this shining near, shining far. And Dharma is my breathing, guarding body and mind. My breathing, that is, go deep into my abdomen. Feel my abdomen rising. Feel my abdomen falling. In our intestine we have so many neurons, and we nourish them with our non-intellectual thinking. One doctor, he examined the intestines of a chimpanzee, and he said, "I cannot tell if it was chimpanzee or a human, because the intestines of a chimpanzee are no different from that of a human. That's a bit of information for you, so you don't feel too proud of yourself being human. So anyway, most of our thinking up in our head is what makes us especially human, but it's not useful for us, that thinking. It's better to go back to your abdomen, feel it rising and falling, and then some kind of intuition has a chance to rise. I should do, or I shouldn't do, or I don't know, should I, shouldn't I don't know, so I don't do anything. Breathing guards my body, guards my mind. And Sangha is the skandhas working in harmony. The body and the feelings, they come back into harmony. The body and the mind are the skandhas. And with our mindful breathing, we can have that kind of harmony in ourselves, the harmony between our body and our mind. So when we're in a very difficult situation, in a dangerous situation, that is our refuge. The island of self. And it is also our hope. Because in that island are all the seeds. We want to evolve. We don't want to stay the kind of Homo sapiens that we are now. As a species, we want to evolve. We want to become a new kind of Homo, a Homo conscious, awareness, the human aware, the awareness that we are not separate from other species. We are not separate from Mother Earth. And so we are not afraid of dying. We are not afraid of going back to Mother Earth. Because we know that Mother Earth is us. And we know that Mother Earth has been there since beginningless time. And we have been there with Mother Earth. And we shall always be there with Mother Earth. So our hope lies in our potential, the potential which is in our seeds, all the seeds. The seeds which we can nourish and take care of in the present moment, because we know that our actions of body, speech and mind are our true belongings. They are the ground on which we stand now and which we will stand in the future, on which we will stand in the future.